So a few years back, I wanted to get the most compact 18-inch subwoofer that would do a good job for me. And that turned out to be the EV EKX 18SP. It was relatively small, only 73 pounds, and it sounded pretty darn good. It kind of rivaled a little bit of that sound of the KW181. It was actually pretty darn close for cheaper and obviously my big concern at the time, smaller and lighter. Well, as time has gone on, I have decided I wanted to go even smaller with the subs, and I was tired of lugging even the 18 around, and it came down to I wanted a little more power, but I didn't want a second large 18. So I wanted to go with maybe a pair of 15s. 15s have gotten a lot better over the years. There's some of them that are really good now. Obviously, the ETX 15s are fantastic that EV makes. They also have, of course, the EKX 15. JBL makes some good 15s. FBT makes some good 15s. There's the QSC KS112. It's a 12-inch option. That's a good cabinet as well. That's a birch cabinet. So there's a lot of options out there if you're looking to downsize, and that's where I was. That's mostly what I'm making this video for. If you're looking to downsize subwoofers, and you don't want to go too small and you still want decent power, but in the smallest possible package. I was at NAMM a few years back and I heard the RCF 705 AS2s. And I remember myself and this large crowd of people that were hearing them just being absolutely, just completely blown away at what this thing sounded like. We could not believe it. And it stuck with me over the years. And so I recently decided to acquire a couple of them, and I'm definitely not regretting it. And here's the reasons why I went with the RCF, and maybe it will fit what you're looking to do too if you're looking to go a little bit smaller with your subs, but you still want really good quality and something that can, you know, play out if you get a couple of them to crowds of about 300 or so. All right, it's time for some subwoofer talk out here on the patio, and right in front of me here is the RCF 705 AS2. The big brother to this is the 905 AS2. That speaker puts out 2200 watts of peak power with 1100 watts RMS. This more compact version puts out 1400 watts of peak power, 700 watts RMS with a max dB rating of 131. Now I've got so much to say about this speaker, so I'm just going to need to go through it one little section at a time because my thoughts are kind of all over the place with this. First things first, let's talk about the weight. This speaker is listed online as weighing anywhere from 50 to 63 pounds, depending on where you see it listed. So I took this one and the second one I bought, and I weighed both of them. They're basically 60.5 pounds. So just to clear the record on that right away, they're 60-pound speakers. Some people say they weigh 50 pounds. They don't. They're 60-pound speakers. Now that's still very compact for what this speaker is doing especially. And the other thing that you need to know immediately, right off the bat here, it sounds phenomenal. What RCF is able to get out of this box is amazing to me. 15-inch woofer. It just absolutely pounds. It's amazing what you can get out of a single 15-inch box here. So let's talk about the front a little bit. There's not a lot going on in the front except for this really nice grille. Now, there's no LED indicator on the bottom. There's no light down there at all that tells you if the speaker's on or off or if it's limiting or anything like that. You just get this big, nice grille. And with that, behind the grille, look at that foam in there. So that is going to help you protect your speaker from dust, dirt, debris, and or other elements that you're experiencing. It also helps to protect your amp. If you've seen pictures of these things, you know that the bottom few inches here is part of that bass reflex design. So that is wide open down there, and you don't want a bunch of crap getting in there. Don't worry, your bass is going to pound right on through that foam, but that does help protect your speaker. So the front is pretty simple. I think it does look fairly modern, fairly sleek though. Nice looking speaker. As we move over to the side of the speaker, you've got a couple of big handles, one on each side, with very nice rubberized grips on them. They're very comfortable to carry around, and it's not too bad to carry around because, again, it only weighs 60 pounds. On the top, the Sub 705 will come with this 35mm pull mount, but as you can see, you can buy an adapter kit because this one actually has an M20 threaded pull mount in it. So you can technically get either one that you want. It is an extremely well-made subwoofer. It's made out of Baltic birch. Baltic birch, if you're in the subwoofer business, you know, very, very dense, awesome material to build subwoofer boxes out of. Something that you can just pound bass in and it resonates extremely well. You want a really, really, really strong box when you're building a subwoofer, because then you turn up the volume and the box still sounds outstanding. That is part of the magic of why these things sound so good, is just the overall build quality. RCF just did an absolutely outstanding job, even with this entry-level series. The sub itself is 22.36 inches tall, 16.93 inches wide. That's it. It's a remarkably narrow subwoofer, and it's 23.43 inches deep. Pretty compact overall size, again, for wanting to get a ton of bass out of a 15-inch box. Not bad at all, size-wise. In fact, it's compact enough, it'll even fit in the back of a Honda Fit with the seats up. Check that out. So the next time you take your kids to school, they don't even need to know you have an RCF subwoofer in the trunk.
What are you doing? Weird.
Well, my kids may not have been all that impressed by the RCF, but I was. So much so that I did end up getting a second one. So now we've got the subwoofer turned around. Let's look at the back. RCF supplies you with this great 14 gauge 10-foot power cord. Links in right down here. It is not a locking connector, but it's a very tight connector, so it doesn't matter. There's no power out link on the 705 series like you get on the 905 series. Convection cooling on the back of the unit. This is not a concern. If you are worried about this, don't be. I know a lot of subwoofers have fans that cool them in the back. Do not fear. RCF knows what they're doing with convection cooling, and this does a fine job. Yes, it gets a little warm, but your subwoofer is not going to overheat. This does a good job dispersing heat away from the amplifier. Don't be worried or concerned about convection cooling back here. It does just fine. Moving up and into the menu, pretty typical for a subwoofer. Not a ton of bells and whistles, and I don't care. Stereo inputs, stereo outputs, locking connectors on the inputs, which is great. Volume control, typically I leave it right there. If you need a little more juice, you can push it, but I do just fine with them right there at the unity setting. And this is where, again, you're not going to find a ton of bells and whistles. If you're looking for cardioid mode, it's not going to be here. If you're looking for some front LED control, it's not going to be here. There's no extra DSP settings, club mode, dance mode, deep mode, nothing like that is back here. It doesn't matter. At least in my opinion, this speaker sounds awesome without all that extra stuff. Nothing wrong with all those settings, but I don't think that you need that all the time if you just make a really good subwoofer from the get-go. Cardioid mode is outstanding for those who need it. If you need cardioid mode or you want to utilize cardioid mode, do it. That's totally fine. It works very well to keep tons of sound in front. I'm not concerned about that with the setups or the rooms that I do, so I don't really care that it's not here. All right, so RCF just comes with 3 basic settings. The top setting is your output. What are these 2 stereo outputs on the bottom doing? If you want them to link to another subwoofer, you keep the button out. If you want the outputs to utilize the crossover setting so you can go to your top cabs, you push the button in. The button below that is your crossover. Leave it out for 80 Hertz, push it in for 110. I'm using this RCF with QSC K.2 series speakers, and I'm running it with the 80 Hertz crossover, and it sounds awesome. The QSCs pick everything up from 80 and above. The RCF handles the 40 to 80, and it just absolutely pounds. So that's my recommendation. If you have QSC K.2s and you're not using RCF tops with this, run it with the 80 Hertz. Again, just my recommendation. Phase, also known as polarity, is below that. If you're noticing that things just sound weird in a room for some reason and it's just not quite sounding right, you can always switch your polarity to see if that makes a difference. Other than that, there's not much else going on back here. That's it. just your basic settings. So what you're getting is a really, really, really well-made cabinet with a lightweight amplifier. The whole thing only weighs 60 pounds, and it's very compact. I just love what this speaker does. I think it is something that can definitely solve a lot of people's problems when you want a small, compact speaker that still sounds big. Yes, there's good sounding 12s out there, but this thing just really blew me away. I heard them at NAMM a couple of years ago, and I didn't forget how that sounded there. I went out and got some. Just an awesome speaker. These things really, really give you some serious sound for their size. And at this point, they're a few years old. You can usually find pretty good deals on some used ones. So something I would definitely check out. That being said, there's one quirky thing I want to show you between the two subs, and then we'll move on, and I'll invite you to watch the next video where I talk about subwoofer coupling. So when I got my second 705, I noticed something kind of interesting. If you look at the phase switch here, this is out for 180, in for 0. The second one I bought had a very slightly different looking menu back here as far as the placement of the sticker and the made in Italy. And it said to push in for 180 and out for 0 on the phase. Well, that's mislabeled. So if you have a sub 705 AS2 that has this label on the bottom rather than that label on the bottom, you may want to double check your polarity because they may be running backwards. I called RCF about this, and they confirmed that yes, it is possible that there was a series of subs that went out that could have been mislabeled in that way. Disappointing to hear that, but at the same time, it was also a pretty easy fix. I knew immediately that the polarity wasn't right just by listening to it. So you should be able to hear that and just notice that as well. So double check if you have an RCF 705 that has this label on it with a slightly different placement of the Italy and the serial number. Make sure you're running your polarity the right way.